The morning at Golden Paws Animal Clinic started like any other, quiet and calm. Emma Carter, an experienced veterinary nurse, had just begun her routine preparations for the day when the clinic's security alarm suddenly blared. The sharp sound broke the peaceful silence, making her heart race. Emma quickly rushed to the monitor to check the security cameras. What she saw made her pause in confusion. Standing at the clinic's entrance was a mother dog, her body tense yet not aggressive. The dog wasn't barking or trying to break in. Instead, she simply stood there, staring directly at the door, almost as if she was waiting for someone to notice her. Emma had worked with animals for years, but she'd never seen behavior like this. Something about the dog seemed unusual, and Emma's instincts told her this wasn't just a random visit. Without wasting another second, she grabbed her keys and headed for the door, ready to find out what brought the dog here. The mother dog's behavior immediately caught Emma's attention. She wasn't barking, growling, or showing any signs of fear or aggression. Instead, the dog seemed calm but determined, standing purposefully at the door as if she had come there with a reason. Emma noticed the dog pacing back and forth in front of the entrance, pausing every now and then to look directly at the security camera. It was as if she was trying to send a message or get someone's attention. Emma leaned closer to the monitor, her mind racing with possibilities. Why would a dog behave this way? Stray animals occasionally wandered near the clinic, but none had acted like this before. Most animals avoided human contact, especially when they were injured or scared. But this dog was different. She wasn't trying to escape or run away. It seemed like she was waiting for someone to help her. Emma's instincts told her something wasn't right. She knew she couldn't ignore this strange behavior. Without hesitation, she picked up the phone and called her colleague, Dr. Michael Turner, who was still on his way to the clinic. "Michael," she said, keeping her voice steady despite the nervousness she felt. "There's a dog at the front door. She's acting unusual. It's like she's here for a reason. You need to get here quickly." Michael's voice on the other end was calm but curious. "A dog? Is it injured?" "I don't think so," Emma replied, glancing back at the screen. "She doesn't look hurt, but there's something off. She's pacing, looking right at the cameras. It's almost like she knows we're watching." "I'll be there in 15 minutes, Michael assured her. "Keep an eye on her, but don't approach yet. Let's figure this out together." Emma hung up and turned her focus back to the screen. The mother dog continued her pacing, occasionally pausing to glance at the door. Emma couldn't help but notice how exhausted the dog looked. Her fur was dirty, and she moved with a hint of weariness, like she'd been traveling for a long time. Yet, despite the obvious fatigue, her determination was clear. There was no doubt in Emma's mind, this dog was here for a reason. As she watched, Emma felt a growing sense of urgency. She couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. The way the dog behaved, the pacing, the glances, the waiting, spoke of an intelligence and purpose that Emma hadn't encountered before. Whatever had brought this dog to the clinic's doorstep, it wasn't random. Emma could feel it in her gut. She grabbed her coat and headed toward the door, prepared to handle whatever came next. Though she didn't know the full story yet, one thing was certain: this wasn't going to be an ordinary day at Golden Paws Animal Clinic. Emma stood by the security monitor, unable to take her eyes off the mother dog. Something about her felt different. She wasn't just another stray wandering by. The dog's fur was matted and dirty, as though she had been traveling through rough terrain. Her body looked thin and tired, showing clear signs of exhaustion, yet her pacing was full of purpose. There was an undeniable urgency in the way she moved. Emma watched as the dog continued pacing back and forth near the clinic door. Occasionally, the dog would stop and look directly at the security camera. Her deep, soulful eyes seemed to be pleading for help, a silent message that Emma couldn't ignore. "What are you trying to tell me?" Emma murmured under her breath, her heart sinking. The behavior was so unusual, so deliberate, that Emma couldn't help but feel a knot forming in her stomach. The dog wasn't barking or scratching at the door. She wasn't trying to force her way inside. Instead, she stood there, waiting for someone to notice her, to understand her silent call for help. Suddenly, the dog stopped pacing and turned away from the clinic. Emma froze, her breath caught in her throat. "Where is she going?" she whispered to herself. She watched the screen closely as the dog started walking back toward the edge of the woods nearby. Emma's heart pounded in her chest. She feared the dog might leave, disappearing into the forest without giving her a chance to figure out what was wrong. But the dog didn't run. Her movements were slow, deliberate, as though she wanted Emma to follow. Emma leaned closer to the screen, her hands gripping the edge of the desk. There was something about the way the dog glanced back toward the clinic every few steps, as if checking to see if anyone was watching her. Then, Emma saw it, a small shadow moving behind the dog. At first, she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. But as the dog emerged from the tree line, Emma saw what had been hidden until now. Limping behind her was a tiny puppy, barely able to keep up. The pup's body wobbled with each step, its fur just as dirty and matted as its mother's. It was clearly injured, one of its legs dragging as it struggled to move. Emma's hand flew to her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. The mother dog had not come to the clinic for herself. She had come for her baby. Every anxious glance, every deliberate step, it had all been for this moment. The mother dog was desperate, and Emma could see it. She had traveled through who knows what, risking everything, in search of someone who could save her pup. In that instant, Emma knew this wasn't just an ordinary day. This was a plea for help, one that transcended words. And Emma was determined to answer it. Emma stood frozen, her eyes glued to the security monitor as the mother dog disappeared into the edge of the woods. For a moment, she felt her heart sink, fearing the dog might leave without any explanation. But then, the dog returned, and Emma's breath caught in her throat. This time, the dog wasn't alone. Limping behind her was a tiny pup, its small body trembling with every step. Emma leaned closer to the screen, her chest tightening as she took in the heartbreaking sight. The pup's fur was dirty and matted, and it struggled to keep up with its mother. Its right leg dragged weakly behind it, and Emma could see faint traces of blood staining its side. The pup's movements were labored, each step looking more painful than the last. Emma's instincts as a nurse immediately kicked in. She scanned the pup's injuries, her trained eye noting the signs of exhaustion and trauma. It was clear this little one had been through an ordeal. But what struck Emma the most wasn't just the pup's condition, it was the way the mother dog behaved. The mother dog moved slowly, her entire focus on her injured pup. Every few steps, she would pause and nudge the pup forward gently with her nose. When the pup stumbled, she waited patiently, letting it gather its strength before guiding it forward again. There was no frustration, no panic, just an overwhelming sense of care and determination. It was as if the mother dog knew exactly where she needed to go and that this was her last hope. Emma's throat tightened, tears threatening to spill. She had seen injured animals before, but this was different. The love and devotion the mother dog showed for her pup were unlike anything she had ever witnessed. Every movement spoke of a desperate plea, a mother willing to do whatever it took to save her baby. As they reached the clinic door, the mother dog stopped. She glanced up at the glass, her eyes locking onto the camera, as if to say, "We're here. Please help us." Then, she stepped back slightly, allowing the pup to sit at the entrance. The pup collapsed onto the ground, its tiny chest heaving with exhaustion. Emma could see its small body trembling, struggling to keep going. Emma's heart broke at the sight. She quickly grabbed her coat and rushed to the door, her hands trembling as she unlocked it. She pushed the door open gently, careful not to startle the dogs. The mother dog stood protectively near her pup, her eyes watching Emma's every move. There was no aggression, no growling, just a silent, hopeful trust. Emma knelt down slowly, tears welling up in her eyes as she got a closer look at the pup. The leg injury was worse than she thought, and the blood had dried around the wound, making it look even more painful. She turned her gaze to the mother dog, who continued to watch her intently. "It's okay," Emma whispered softly. "I'm going to help." At that moment, Emma realized the full weight of what was happening. This mother dog had risked everything to bring her baby here, trusting humans to do what she couldn't. Emma felt a wave of emotion wash over her, knowing she had to make every second count to save this little life. Emma stood at the clinic door, her heart pounding as she faced the mother dog and her injured pup. The sight before her was unlike anything she had ever experienced. The mother dog, standing just a few feet away, stepped back slightly as Emma approached, but she didn't run or show aggression. Instead, she stayed close, her eyes fixed on Emma with a mixture of desperation and hope. Emma moved cautiously, careful not to startle the dogs. She knelt slowly, her gaze shifting between the mother and her pup. The mother dog's body language spoke volumes. Her tense posture, her heavy breathing, and her constant glances toward the pup made it clear she was both protective and terrified. Yet, there was something else in her eyes, an unspoken plea for help. Emma could feel it in her chest like a weight pressing down. "It's okay, I'm here to help," Emma said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. She reached out a hand toward the pup, keeping her movements slow and deliberate. The mother dog didn't growl or lunge. Instead, she took a cautious step back, giving Emma just enough space to get closer to her baby. Emma's breath hitched. This wasn't just instinct, this was trust. The mother dog, despite her fear, was allowing a stranger to come near her injured pup because she had no other choice. Emma's hands trembled as she gently examined the pup. The tiny creature whimpered softly, its small body trembling from pain and exhaustion. Emma's heart broke at the sight of the pup's injured leg. The wound was deep, likely caused by a sharp object, and blood had dried around it, leaving the fur matted and sticky. She glanced up at the mother dog, who stood a few steps away, her eyes never leaving her pup. The connection between mother and child was undeniable. The mother dog shifted her weight anxiously but didn't interfere. Her trust in Emma was fragile but real, and Emma felt the responsibility of that trust like a heavy burden. She couldn't let them down. As Emma worked to assess the pup's injuries, she spoke softly, more for herself than the dogs. "You've been so brave," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "Both of you." The mother dog tilted her head slightly, her ears perked as if she understood Emma's words. Her eyes, filled with a depth of emotion Emma couldn't fully describe, locked onto Emma's with a silent message, "Please, save my baby." The moment felt surreal. Emma had worked with countless animals in her career, but this was different. The bond between the mother dog and her pup, the courage it must have taken for her to bring the injured pup to the clinic, and the trust she placed in Emma, all of it left her feeling both humbled and overwhelmed. After a few moments, Emma carefully picked up the pup, cradling it in her arms. The mother dog took a hesitant step forward but stopped, watching Emma intently. "Don't worry," Emma whispered, her voice trembling. "I'll take care of your baby." As Emma carried the pup inside the clinic, she glanced back at the mother dog. Their eyes met one last time before the door closed, and in that gaze, Emma saw something she would never forget: gratitude. Inside the clinic, Emma gently laid the injured pup on the examination table. The tiny creature whimpered softly, its small body trembling from pain and exhaustion. Emma's hands moved carefully, her years of experience guiding her, but her heart felt heavy. She had treated countless animals before, but something about this little pup and its mother felt different, like this wasn't just another case but a moment she would never forget. As Emma began to examine the pup's leg, her breath caught in her throat. Wrapped tightly around the pup's thin limb was a wire, sharp, rusted, and cruel. It was cutting deep into the flesh, leaving angry red marks and dried blood in its wake. The wound looked painful, swollen, and infected, and Emma's heart ached at the sight. This wasn't an accident. This was a trap, a man-made snare, likely set by someone hunting illegally in the nearby woods. Emma's jaw tightened as anger and sorrow washed over her. She hated seeing the results of human carelessness or cruelty. This poor pup had been caught in the wire, and judging by the state of the wound, it had likely been suffering for days. The infection alone could have been life-threatening if it hadn't been brought to the clinic in time. But as Emma examined the wire more closely, she noticed something that made her hands pause. There were scratches and dents along the metal. At first, she thought it was just damage from the pup's struggles to escape. But then, she saw the unmistakable signs of claw marks. The wire had been twisted and bent in places, as if someone, or something, had desperately tried to remove it. Emma's eyes widened as realization dawned on her. These weren't just random scratches. They were deliberate attempts to free the pup. The mother dog had been trying to save her baby. She had likely clawed and bitten at the wire for hours, maybe even days, doing everything she could to break it. The marks told a story of determination, of a mother who refused to give up. Emma felt a lump rise in her throat as she imagined the scene. The mother dog, exhausted and desperate, working tirelessly to free her pup from the cruel trap. She could picture the pain in the dog's eyes as she watched her baby struggle, unable to do more than twist and claw at the unyielding metal. And when she couldn't break the wire on her own, she made a decision that Emma would never forget. She brought her pup here, to the only place she believed could help. Tears welled in Emma's eyes as she carefully began to remove the wire. Her hands trembled slightly, but she worked with precision, speaking softly to the pup. "You're so strong," she whispered, her voice breaking. "And your mama loves you so much." The mother dog watched through the clinic window, her body tense but calm, her eyes never leaving Emma and her pup. Emma could feel the weight of the dog's trust, and it made her even more determined to help. As the wire finally came free, Emma let out a shaky breath. The pup whimpered softly but remained still, as if sensing that the worst was over. Emma looked at the damaged wire in her hands, the cruel object that had caused so much pain, and then back at the pup. "You're safe now," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Your mama made sure of that." Emma's hands worked carefully as she removed the wire from the pup's injured leg. Her every movement was precise and gentle, but her heart felt like it was breaking. The cruel metal trap had cut deep into the pup's flesh, leaving raw, swollen wounds. As the wire finally came loose, Emma held it in her hands, staring at the jagged edges that had caused so much pain. A wave of emotion washed over her, and tears welled up in her eyes. She placed the damaged wire aside and focused on cleaning the pup's wound. The tiny creature lay still on the table, exhausted from its ordeal but surprisingly calm. Emma's voice trembled as she whispered softly to the pup, "It's okay now. You're safe." But her thoughts kept returning to the mother dog. Emma had seen her through the clinic window, standing vigil, her eyes locked on her pup. That dog had risked everything to bring her baby here, to humans, despite the fact that humans had caused the pup's injuries in the first place. The realization hit Emma like a punch to the chest. This mother dog had no reason to trust people, yet she had chosen to. She had brought her baby to the clinic, putting aside her fear and instinct, because she knew it was her pup's only chance. Emma wiped away a tear as she gently cleaned the wound. Her mind replayed the scratches on the wire, the marks left by the mother dog's desperate attempts to free her pup. She had fought so hard, clawing and biting at the trap, refusing to give up. And when she couldn't break it completely, she made the most incredible decision, to bring her injured pup to the very species responsible for its pain. It was a level of courage and love that Emma couldn't comprehend. As she wrapped the pup's leg in a clean bandage, Emma's tears finally spilled over. She didn't try to stop them. She cried not just for the pain the pup had endured, but for the incredible bond between the mother and her baby. That bond had transcended fear, instinct, and even the barriers between humans and animals. It was a pure, unselfish love, and it humbled Emma beyond words. She glanced toward the window, where the mother dog still stood, her eyes never leaving the clinic. There was no aggression in her gaze, only a quiet determination and trust. Emma felt a lump in her throat as she realized what this moment truly meant. The mother dog had given her trust freely, believing that Emma could save her pup. It was a trust Emma felt deeply honored to receive. Emma finished the treatment and gently placed a soft blanket over the pup. She stroked its tiny head, whispering softly, "Your mama loves you so much. And she never gave up on you." Outside, the mother dog remained a silent guardian, waiting patiently for her baby. Emma stood for a moment, wiping her tears and taking a deep breath. This wasn't just about treating an injured pup. It was about witnessing the extraordinary love of a mother and being reminded of the lengths one will go to protect those they love. The treatment was finally complete. Emma wrapped the pup in a soft, warm blanket and cradled it carefully in her arms. She could feel its tiny body relax, no longer trembling from pain. The sight of the pup, calm and cared for, brought a bittersweet smile to her face. It had been through so much, but now, there was hope. Taking a deep breath, Emma walked toward the clinic door. She paused for a moment, peeking out the window to see the mother dog waiting just as she had been since the moment they arrived. The dog's eyes were locked on the door, her body still and tense, but not with fear. It was something else, anticipation, hope, maybe even trust. Emma could feel the weight of it in her chest. Slowly, she opened the door and stepped outside. The crisp air brushed against her skin as she knelt down carefully, lowering the pup to the ground. The mother dog immediately stepped forward, her eyes focused entirely on her baby. Emma stayed still, holding her breath as she watched the scene unfold. The pup let out a soft whimper as it tried to stand on its injured leg. The mother dog closed the small distance between them, her movements cautious yet deliberate. She leaned down and gently nuzzled the pup's side, her nose brushing against the bandaged leg. Emma felt her throat tighten as she watched the mother inspect her baby, taking her time to ensure everything was okay. It was an incredible sight. The mother dog's actions weren't rushed or frantic. Instead, they were careful and full of love. She licked the pup's face softly, as though reassuring it, "You're safe now. I'm here." Emma wiped away a tear as she stayed kneeling a few feet away, giving the mother and pup the space they needed. The connection between them was undeniable, a bond so deep and unbreakable that it transcended words. Emma felt humbled to have witnessed it. The pup, though still weak, responded to its mother's comforting gestures. It leaned against her, seeking warmth and safety. The mother dog let out a low, soft whine, a sound that carried both relief and gratitude. She looked up briefly, her eyes meeting Emma's. In that brief moment, Emma felt an overwhelming wave of emotion. The dog's gaze was filled with something she couldn't quite explain: gratitude, understanding, and trust. The mother didn't linger. She gently guided her pup back toward the woods, taking slow, careful steps to match her baby's pace. Emma stayed at the clinic entrance, watching as the pair disappeared into the trees. The pup limped slightly, but it moved with more ease now, the worst of its pain relieved. As they vanished into the forest, Emma stood there for a moment, her heart full. The mother dog's trust, the love she showed for her pup, and the courage it took to seek help, all of it would stay with Emma forever. This wasn't just a reunion, it was a reminder of the extraordinary power of a mother's love. The treatment was over. Emma carefully wrapped the small pup in a blanket, its breathing now calm and steady. The worst of its pain was behind it, but the weight of the moment pressed on her heart. This wasn't just about an injured pup, it was about a mother's love that had brought them to this moment. Emma walked toward the clinic door with deliberate care, cradling the pup in her arms. She stopped for a moment, looking out the window. The mother dog was still there, standing exactly where she had been all along. Her body was tense, her eyes focused intently on the door. Emma could feel the silent urgency in her posture. The mother wasn't going to leave without her baby. Slowly, Emma pushed the door open and stepped outside. The cool air hit her face, but her attention was on the mother dog. She knelt down on the ground, gently lowering the pup onto the soft blanket she had placed by the door. The pup let out a soft whimper, its small body still weak but stable. The mother dog immediately moved forward, her eyes fixed on her pup. She stopped just a few feet away, looking at Emma for a brief moment before turning her attention back to her baby. Emma held her breath and stayed still, allowing the mother to take the lead. The mother dog approached the pup slowly, her movements careful and deliberate. She sniffed the bandaged leg, her nose brushing gently against the treated wound. Emma's chest tightened as she watched the tenderness in the mother's actions. There was no rush, no panic, just a deep, instinctive love. The pup responded by leaning weakly into its mother. The mother dog let out a low, soft sound, a mix of relief and reassurance. She licked the pup's face gently, her tongue running over the little one's head as if to comfort it. Emma wiped at her eyes, unable to stop the tears that had started to fall. This moment was so raw, so full of love, it was impossible to look away. For a few minutes, the mother dog continued to inspect her baby. She nuzzled the bandages, checking every detail, as though making sure her pup was truly safe. Then, satisfied, she stood tall and glanced briefly at Emma. Their eyes met for just a moment, but it was enough. In that silent exchange, Emma felt a deep sense of gratitude from the dog, a trust that went beyond words. The mother dog then turned her attention back to her pup. She nudged it gently, encouraging it to stand. The pup wobbled but managed to get onto its feet, its small legs shaky but stronger than before. The mother stayed close, guiding her baby with every step. As the pair began to move toward the woods, Emma stayed kneeling by the door, watching them disappear into the trees. The mother dog paused once to look back, her eyes meeting Emma's one last time. Then, with her baby at her side, she vanished into the forest. Emma sat there for a moment, overwhelmed. This wasn't just a reunion, it was a testament to the power of love and trust. It was a moment she would carry with her forever. Emma stood at the clinic door, watching the mother dog and her pup. The treatment was over, and the pup, though weak, was safe. As the mother dog gently nudged her baby forward, Emma stayed still, giving them space. She couldn't take her eyes off the pair, feeling a deep sense of awe. Before stepping into the woods, the mother dog stopped and turned her head. Her eyes locked onto Emma's, holding her gaze for a long moment. Emma froze, her heart pounding. There was something in the dog's eyes, something that words could never express. It wasn't just a look. It was a message, a silent thank you from a mother who had risked everything to save her baby. The connection in that moment was extraordinary. Emma felt a wave of emotion she couldn't hold back. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she wiped them away quickly, overwhelmed by what she was experiencing. She had always loved animals, but this was different. This wasn't just about treating an injury or saving a life. It was about trust, love, and a bond that transcended species. The mother dog gave one final glance before turning her attention back to her pup. She nudged the little one gently, encouraging it to follow her. The pup limped slightly, but it managed to move, sticking close to its mother's side. Every few steps, the mother paused, adjusting her pace to match her baby's. Emma stayed at the door, watching the pair make their way toward the forest. The mother's focus on her pup was unwavering, her care and love evident in every step. As they reached the edge of the trees, the mother dog looked back one last time. Their eyes met again, and Emma felt a deep sense of gratitude pass between them. Then, without hesitation, the mother dog led her pup into the woods, disappearing among the trees. Emma stood there long after they were gone, her heart full. She had witnessed something truly extraordinary, a mother's love so strong it had bridged the gap between the wild and human worlds. It was a moment she would never forget. After the mother dog and her pup disappeared into the woods, Emma returned to the clinic. Her heart was still heavy with emotion, and her mind replayed every moment of the incredible encounter. She sat at her desk, staring at the blank page of her treatment log. How could she put into words what had just happened? Emma began documenting the details of the day, the mother dog's arrival, her desperate plea for help, and the trust she placed in humans despite her fear. She wrote about the pup's injuries and the scratches on the wire, evidence of the mother's tireless efforts to free her baby. As she wrote, Emma couldn't stop thinking about the intelligence and courage the mother dog had shown. It wasn't just instinct. It was a choice, a conscious decision to seek help, to trust. As she finished her notes, Emma leaned back in her chair, her thoughts racing. The event had changed her. In her years of working with animals, she had never seen anything like it. This wasn't just about treating an injured pup. It was about witnessing the depth of love and connection animals could have, not just with their own but with humans too. The mother dog's actions had bridged the gap between the wild and human worlds in a way Emma had never imagined. Over the next few days, Emma shared the story with her colleagues, her friends, and even the clinic's followers online. She spoke about the mother's courage, her determination to save her pup, and the trust she had placed in humans. The story resonated deeply with everyone who heard it, touching hearts and inspiring people to see animals in a new light. The story spread quickly, and people from all walks of life reached out to share how deeply it had moved them. Emma felt a sense of fulfillment knowing that this incredible tale of love and courage was making an impact. It reminded people of the bonds that could exist between humans and animals, bonds built on trust, care, and respect. For Emma, this wasn't just a story she would tell, it was an experience that would stay with her forever. It had opened her heart to a deeper understanding of the world around her, and she knew she would never look at animals the same way again. The mother dog and her pup had left more than just a memory, they had left a lasting lesson about the power of love.